we're gonna move on to our part 2 of our talks for Tears of the Kingdom. Take it away, guys. How's your adventure being the lanky boy?
Go for it, Metal. You think you've been quiet the most. I don't want you to fall asleep over there.
Hey, I'm falling asleep. I'm really tired. So I got my golden horse. I'm happy about that.
Yay.
Yeah, when I saw that, I was like kind of just, doing stuff, walking around and doing whatever. Actually, I was finding the tears. I was looking for the tears.
Mm-hmm.
And
so did you have the quest for the golden horse, or you just found it?
No, I just found it.
Nice.
I saw it and I was like, I want that. Like I looked at it and I was like, I'm gonna get it. And I made a whole bunch of potions with a bunch of stamina crap on it because I used a bunch of my pots. And I was like, you know what, I'm gonna get this thing. And after like 6-7 tries, I finally got it. And I was like, yeah, and I didn't know that was even a quest, actually.
Yep.
The quest just came up and it went away. And I'm like, oh, I don't feel special anymore. It was a quest that, it was a side quest. I was like, oh well, whatever. So I ended up getting like 1, 2, 3, I think I got like 5 or 6 tiers. So I'm still working through
I think I only have like 3 or 4.
Yeah, I ended up like continuing on with the input thing for a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
Got to the Forgotten Temple, looking around.
So what's the first? I'm assuming that's the last tier you're gonna get. Is the very first one? The first memory? No, is that one? That's one of the tiers. All right, don't answer. Don't answer.
It's not the last tier you get. Is not the first tier. I mean, it kind of wraps up.
But the first tier will explain something, I'm sure.
Yeah, I mean, you do. So it really depends on the order that you find them. I mean, have you guys liked the tiers as far as how it's breaking down the story and like
I like it.
I
Cinematics.
like it.
Hmm.
It reminds me of the other stuff from Breath of the Wild, but with more context. But with more context, it feels a little bit more like you don't know what to expect from it, which is really nice. So like for each one, it's something completely different. As opposed to looking for pictures, this one you're just like, oh cool, I found that you're looking for this little pool of water. That's it. That's all you're looking for. And you don't know what the hell to expect from it. All you know is that you get it and something happens. And I really do like that. I like the mysticism behind the tiers.
I think the way it's very similar to how Breath of the Wild did the story, but maybe it's just I think the story is a lot better here.
Oh yeah.
Having Ganon as an antagonist helps a lot. Not that there aren't still, cheesy moments, and it's got that Zelda-y kind of cheese to it in some ways, but I think the cinematics are better. Some of them are more actiony. They give you more just context of what's going on. Quality's better. No story, I think, is more interesting.
He's a lot more menacing too. Like you actually could see, like he was gunning for power, like hardcore.
They said something like
when he gets it, he gets like all freaking like ballistic. It's pretty cool.
They said something like he was like one of the first, not first, but he was like one of the rare like male Gerudo or something that was born.
Yeah, Gerudos only have a male every
100,000
generation,
years or whatever. They say that in Ocarina of Time if you've ever played it.
So here, and I'm kind of getting off on a tangent just a little bit.
Hitler Gerudo or whatever.
Oh, they do mention it though.
Hitler Gerudo.
This is branching off, but it's a timeline question. So we know the very first game in the timeline is Skyward Sword. Now, before there was a Hyrule or anything, and up until Tears of the Kingdom, the last game was Breath of the Wild. Okay, so in the context of Tears of the Kingdom, they're basically saying that all the way back to the very first Hyrule. So this would have been like right after Skyward Sword, Ganon took over and then was imprisoned underneath the castle, and has been imprisoned all the way up until Breath of the Wild. That means all the other Zelda games took place while this Ganon was imprisoned under the castle.
That's really strange.
What I find that weird is, to my understanding of how like Skyward Sword worked, is that Ganon and Link and Zelda are all basically reincarnated in different kind of entities throughout the timeline. How does that work if you've had a Ganon underneath the castle this entire time, and then you've had other Ganons happening the whole time?
Other blights?
You're digging too deep. You're gonna have Miyamoto knock down your door.
I'm just saying. And here's the thing. I know, like, I don't know how much they've ever really thought about the Zelda timeline. I almost feel like when they put the timeline together like 8 years ago, they just haphazardly try to push things together to make it work. I don't know if they ever had like a big overarching plan, but this kind of feels like one of those moments where they like wanted to have a really cool story element. Ganon's been trapped under for a gajillion years, without really thinking about how it's going to affect the rest of the timeline. And maybe they'll write something in there to explain it. But yeah, that's just my nerd brain trying to understand what's going on there, and I find it kind of interesting. So.
Is it it's the plot is very much like, I don't want to say it, it's to me a very reminiscent of like Back to the Future, of course, where like it basically Zelda goes back in time, but kind of she doesn't ruin everything, but she's unable to defeat Ganon with them.
It has to find a way to influence or impact the future, so it's not an issue in the future.
Okay, that's so it's all like it's like the classic time where it's like this happens because they go back and then you go forward. Yeah, I get it.
Yeah, it's hard to tell like if it's like a linear like Back to the Future kind of thing, or if it's like branching timelines. But what it sounds like is there's one timeline and it's like cyclical. But I'm hesitant to say too much. I don't know which tiers you found. I will say, without going into a lot of spoilers, like the ending of it hit me kind of hard, like from an emotional aspect. And I don't really get emotional about Zelda games very often. This one you buy into, like it hits you a certain way at the very, very end when you figure out what actually happened and what's going on with Zelda. I mean, I don't know what you guys know, but I think the way they do the story is pretty choice towards the end. So I'll just leave it at that.
Cool. Awesome. I didn't get
Have you guys found the Mastered Sword yet?
Nope.
No.
Okay.
I haven't even gone to the second or third or fourth dungeon yet.
Isn't that always in a woods? It's always in a forest or something. No?
I'll tell you this, it's not. Man, I want to talk about it, but I don't want to spoil it for you. So
there was one of the previous games I played where it was in one of the forest mazes or something.
Breath of the Wild is in the forest. It's been there before, but different games give you the Master Sword different ways. The forest can help kind of guide you towards the Master Sword if you want to go that route, but I'll tell you this, it's not in the forest.
So, can I broach something with you guys?
Broach away.
I'm kind of curious. When I'm finished with this game, I do think at some point I want to play Breath of the Wild so I can get a better view of both games. I'm starting to get tired of all of the building. Like, it's fun for a little bit, but man, there comes a point where it's like you're just constantly building. Like, everything is all about building things, and it's just like, again, it's fun, but I think it's part of the reason why we've talked about it so many times. I won't go too deep, but into like previous Zelda games with the more natural dungeons. Again, because they're not so build oriented, they're able to like funnel you through a certain direction where you only use one certain ability or two certain abilities, and like, I don't know, like I just get tired every time I like approach something. It's just like, oh, you need to build something to get over it. And it's like, I'm tired of this. I don't know. What about you? Are you guys tired? You get what I'm saying?
Have you been handling metal?
Well, I hate dying so dang much over stupid crap, in my opinion. I can find a Talus and I'm just like, yeah, cool, I got this. All of a sudden, one hit kills, and I'm like, man, this is stupid. Like, I have to build my weapons consistently to try to be able to even match anything.
Well, like,
so you're talking about fusing.
The fusing is cool, but it gets to a point where you're just like, all right, well, I don't want to fuse stuff. I just want to find things and just use it and break it. Like.
It's a similar thing. Yeah.
So we're talking about the same thing. We're just different ends, like
same issue with two different mechanics.
Yeah, well, I get what you're saying, Chaz. Like, in order to do things, you got to build stuff, and a lot of those shrines are like that. And
not just the shrines. It's
everything. And I'm a little tired of it myself, actually. I like looking around to find things to see what works. Sometimes I just don't want to do that. I just want to kind of get it done over with and kind of continue.
That's why I wanted to broach that with you, because in the previous game, Breath of the Wild, like, you were building, but it was mainly
it was more restrictive.
More restrictive. Like you were building, but like you were like more consistently exploring and moving around and doing things. Here it's like you go to a spot and then you got to build a bunch of stuff, and then you're allowed to go to another spot. You need to build a bunch of stuff, and it's like, I don't know, like you were saying, restrictive is a great word. It's like
I've kind of been like enjoying the depths a lot for that reason, because you don't have to build so much, because you're running around collecting pose and trying to get from one area to the next without hitting gloom, you know, like figuring out your ways.
I will say though, building ultimately ruins the depths. I'll just kind of jump into it. So eventually you learn how to build some certain
the machines. The freaking zonite machines.
Like you can build a little hover bike for like a couple of fans and a control
I saw
stick.
that. Yeah.
And then that's the only thing you ever need for the rest of the game. It breaks everything as far as like traversal. Like you can fly around the depths. Gloom is no longer an issue. You can fly to every little route light to go and activate it, and then it ruins traversal of Hyrule too. And when I say ruins, like it's nice to be able to move that quickly and freely, but I will never need to build any other vehicle ever again unless I just want to. So we talked about this too last time. I had kind of expressed the same opinion. I was already getting tired of building. Like I know I had mentioned you have the one guy who's holding up the sign. You got to build something.
Oh, I'm so tired of that guy.
Yeah, that thing's so annoying.
Exactly. After about the 4th or 5th time, you're tired of it, and tell me if I'm wrong, you just end up doing the exact same basic
I've done it
structure.
10 to 15 times probably.
Mm-hmm. It just building as the answer for everything gets super tedious, and if anything for me makes it where it lacks my urge to have any kind of creative input after a while, because I would have already solved that puzzle. I already know the answer. Why am I going to wrap my brain for a more creative way to do it when I've got an answer there? And you may not have found it out yet, but the game gives you a way to auto build what you've created before. So then I just pull back up my schematic of something I've built that works, and I press a button, pop it in place, and then I'm done. Which is nice from a quality of life standpoint, that I can expedite the process. But point being is I didn't put any thought into that. I'm not recreating anything or solving a new puzzle. I'm just, for the sake of building something, pulling out my old building materials and solving the puzzle with the exact same way I've done it before. It trivializes a lot of the game. There's times that building, I think, is just tedious. It overcomplicates either solutions or makes it where the solutions to a puzzle are too easy, because you can break them through, building a hover bike. Like I've skipped so many shrines because I built a hover bike. And that kind of ruins it for me. I miss having a restrictive sandbox, at least for parts of the game, where I have to do things a certain way. And a lot of people think, well, I'm just not being as creative then to solve a problem. But part of, I think, solving a problem to get satisfaction out of it is feeling like I found the solution, right? I was clever enough to figure out what the game developer wanted me to do to solve X, Y, Z. When I can break that, I don't feel satisfied. I'm just like, well, I kind of cheated the system. Yay for me. I don't know. And they do try to restrict you sometimes, but not often.
Can I say that's why I'll say I've done the Gerudo dungeon and I've done the Rito dungeon. I think that's, I mentioned a gamer earlier. I like the Rito section much more than the Gerudo section. And I should say, that's, I think why I like the Rito section is because it's a lot less build oriented. Like I feel like when you're there, it's mainly just flying around, and once you get it into the dungeon, or he hasn't done it yet, but I don't want to ruin it for him. I just like it. It's more simple. It's a little more simple in terms of how you approach it. It's just moving around and doing things. I don't know.
What did you build in the Gerudo section that was less simple?
I feel like it required you doing a lot more with. I don't want to ruin it for him.
I don't think you're ruining it.
You're not gonna ruin it. I'm gonna get there eventually anyway. I mean, you have to put the little fan thing in the other thing.
You put me on the spot now. Now I can't think of what you were building exactly in the Gerudo part.
The Gerudo one, and I don't think it's a spoiler. There, you deal with these little mirrors.
Yeah, the mirrors type
that's
stuff.
Kind of the main focus.
Are you serious?
Mm-hmm. And like you have to attach those in places.
So it's a lot like the Ocarina of Time thing, where you have
puzzles.
Oh my god, not that again. God.
Well, I kind of found that refreshing, but I can get back to that later.
I didn't find I didn't
that
find
rationale.
Yeah, I'm not thinking about it. I don't know.
I'm not trying to discount if you liked Rito more. I mean, that's perfectly valid.
I definitely still liked Rito a lot more. But...
Well, I'll tell you what. Okay, I want to come back to the dungeons because, man, I have a lot to say about the dungeons. But as far as the building mechanics, I think long term this is going to be the defining or kind of dividing feature about this game for people.
It's going to be
people are really hyped about it right now. Long term, I'm not sure if Ultra Hand is going to pay off. Like, it's going to be great for those people who want to have a lot of longevity in the game, where they just want to play in the sandbox, build a bunch of crazy stuff, like pseudo Minecraft kind of things. This would be great for them. But for those who want to come back and replay this game just for the game, I will now have already known the best way to traverse it. I will have basically broken most of the mechanics at the very beginning. I'm going to have a hard time replaying this and recapturing any initial excitement or wonder.
Well, that's why
so much.
I'm thinking that the more replayable game may end up being Breath of the Wild. And I think it may end up being because, like you were saying, it's less restrictive in terms of the building. Yeah, it's maybe a little more plain in terms of the variety of locations because there's not a sky and a depths. It's just the main area with like the same locations from Tears of the Kingdom. But I don't know, like it felt more. Again, you're not hassled as much in terms of moving around. It's like the only thing you're hassled with in that one, from what I remember, was like learning how to cook and then just learning where to go, which I kind of like that a little more, where you're more like, I just don't know where to go and I just want to figure out.
To be fair, knowledge after a subsequent playthrough is going to change that, because as soon as you play the game, you know where to go. So that is going to change the flow of the replayability. But the progression of movement in Breath of the Wild is very different. Like, there are glitches that can break that, but if you think about the standard flow, first you have to walk, then you have to get the glider, then you have to get the horse, and after you do that, that's about as fast as you get, and traversal is then kind of locked into a certain kind of flow. With Tears of the Kingdom, within the first, I'm going to say like hour, you could probably build one of those hover bikes, knowing that that's not a thing you can do, and you've now pretty much broken the game. Because you can go anywhere at any speed. I mean, granted, I guess you have like battery life to consider, but maybe you haven't broken the game, but you've definitely changed how you're going to interact with that game from now on. It's going to lose a lot of the mystery, adventure aspect of it, but you could argue that's going to happen, I guess, anyway. Once you've beaten the game, you know the game. I don't know. I don't disagree with you. I think replayability is going to vary very much on what you want out of the game. If you want a sandbox to play with, lots of replayability. If you're playing it again for just this narrative or certain like moments of it, I feel like you're going to be hindered by that, or at least it's not going to have the same impact that it did the first time.
Yeah, that's kind of the boat I'm in. Like, to be honest, most of the fun I have is just the whole, just walking around, exploring, fighting things, and it's like, again, if that's what you're into, then definitely being halted every, 5 minutes when you're got to build something to get somewhere is kind of annoying.
I'm trying to think too, when in this game has Ultra Hand really made the game better? Like, when have I built something, whether it be prompted by the game or not, that been like, that's made this game better for me?
I don't want to take these Koroks to their friends anymore. I don't want to build signs. Like, it's, man.
Yeah, so I don't know. I'm not saying that you can't have fun when you build like a giant mecha, Zonite device saying to take down a fortress. That's a fun moment, but I'm not gonna do that every single time. I feel like now I'm not using that now. Like, I still just run into a fort and just take them out, handsy style, just with my little stick, just punch them in the face. So,
and like you were saying,
different.
Like you're saying, whenever it also kind of like, to an extent, doing those things almost takes a little bit of fun out, because like you were saying, it trivializes your experience a little bit, because it's like you're putting all this time into building something that's just gonna kind of ruin the game mechanic that they have planned for you, and it's I don't know.
I will say weird. That it can lead to fun moments. I'm not saying I don't want to come so harsh to be like it's a bad mechanic. I think ultimately it's gonna not be a great mechanic for this game long term, but it does make for some fun moments. Like, I remember I was traveling, I think up to like the water temple or something, and I was getting up to this point, I saw like the last platform, there was this construct, like big bossy type construct out in the middle. So I built this plane to get over there, and I had this whole plan in my head. I'm gonna fly this plane over, jump off, smack him in the head. So I tried this, I built this crazy plane, flew over, I jumped off the plane, missed him, and landed like 3 feet in front of him, like, crap, now he's gonna kill me. And then my plane flies from under me, scoops him up, and just takes him off into the sky. So there are fun moments like that happen because you can build crazy stuff. And I don't want to negate the fact that those fun, crazy moments happen. But I think from a moment to moment, just like what the game is trying to make you accomplish and do, I don't know if this is a mechanic that's going to serve it well ultimately.
And can I also, well, just kind of branching off of that, I think this game makes me more excited for what the next Zelda game is going to be, which I feel like I should ask you guys. Well, I guess it's hard to say because I don't know the ending. I mean, me and Gamer don't know the ending yet, but
I don't know the ending either. I am at Ganon. I haven't beat the game yet.
Oh gosh, maybe this is a hard question to ask since none of us know how it ends. But I was just saying, like, based on just my overall experience so far, I kind of hope that this ends this style, ends this Zelda, I don't know, kind of arc that they have. I hope that the next one tries something new or maybe reverts back.
When you say this style, are you talking about like
just
this story, or are you talking about this art style, or are you talking about this gameplay style? Because there's different things that could be ending here.
Maybe not the gameplay. The gameplay's fun enough, but maybe just this.
Well, like the open world.
Exploration.
You wanting that to go?
Kind of. Like I want it to stay.
They already said. The developers already said in a recent interview that Breath of the Wild, what it started as, is now the foundation for most Zelda games moving forward, beyond Tears of the Kingdom. So the next game will be like these two games. Well, at least from what they've said so far, unless I really misread or misquoted them. But I mean, it may not be the same Link and Zelda story, and it might be a different art style. But it sounds like it's going to be an open world, explorative, survival-y, whatever. So that's not changing, I don't think.
I don't know how I feel about that. Overall, I'm still enjoying it, but I don't want to dig too deep, but there's still something just missing for the overall experience for me. Like, it's still fun. It'll probably still be up there with Game of the Year. I mean, again, I gotta see how it ends. I mean, we'll see. I don't know. What about you guys?
I've been talking a lot. Get Gamer. If you got some energy left in you, go ahead.
I like the game as is. I mean, it's fun. I just need to continue, and I just gotta push forward to whatever it is I need to do. Really,
you look like you're about to pass out, man.
I gotta stop. I really need to stop eating crap. That's my problem. Like I get lost. I go one place and then I go this way.
The game, though. You should.
Then I go to the depths. Then I go up. Then I jump down. Then I want to go there.
I think you should play it how you want to play it. If you want to go in a direction like me, go in a direction. You know, whatever, dude.
I'm used to direction, though. When it comes to Zelda games, I'm used to direction. This open world stuff, like this Skyrim type style, is like annoying
because I know it's hindering you that it's so distracting.
Yes, it's too distracting in my opinion. Like I like the game, I really do. It's just like, oh, shiny thing to my left. Oh, that's a dark
annoying.
area.
It's hard to accomplish something unless you really set your mind to accomplish something.
Like I really want to go to a different place, but no, I have all these other things I want to do, and it's like, oh, cool, look at that horse. I'm gonna go capture it. Really? Yeah. I should be doing something, you know, like it kind of brings back, it kind of brings out the, you know, the what do you say, I don't know, it just brings out the bad person, that my disorganization.
I'll tell you, I don't know if this will happen to you, but it happened to me, like after a certain point. I don't remember exactly when, but I got kind of I don't want to say overwhelmed, I just got over doing more shrines, doing more Korok, doing more whatever, because it's not that they're even bad. I've enjoyed my time with them, but once again, I'm now 70-80 hours, however long into it. I could do more shrines. I don't feel like I'm going to get much value out of them. I don't need them for power. Like, you get to a point where you're just overpowered in the game. And I don't feel like I'm going to get too many more exciting gameplay elements out of them. I'll tell you, the shrines, no matter what puzzle it is, they all feel about the same difficulty level to me. None of them are super interesting. They're like, oh, that was a cute little way to use that power. Or once again, I break it using whatever build mechanic I've learned. And I'll tell you, I don't know if it's that it is so much like Breath of the Wild and I'm kind of over it. I don't know. Like, I know I had said way back before the game even come out, like, I was all for this being like Breath of the Wild because it's been, 6 years since I played Breath of the Wild, so even if it was that with just a little more added, that was fine. But I don't know if I still feel that way, because this game is very much Breath of the Wild.
It
shrines,
It is.
I mean, besides a little bit of aesthetic change, a slightly different powers, they're the same, right? Shrines are the same. Korok stuff, besides a couple of new ways to get Koroks, they're the same. There's a lot of the same DNA. And not that I'm opposed to that necessarily.
The cooking mechanics, the weapons, it's all...
It's just, there's so much of it already. There was a lot of it in Breath of the Wild. There's more of it here. And I'm not trying to argue that the developers don't deserve to have full price for this game or that's not a true sequel. I believe it very much is. There's plenty of work and content and high quality content here. But I'm kind of over it. I am not going to 100% this game by any means. I have no want to. I'm trying to find the more interesting, unique content that I can. Like, the depths is still pretty fun. But even
I want to go defeat the giant monster down there. I saw him walking around.
So I will say this, I found in the depths. I haven't fought him yet. You remember the boss from the Rito, the big snaky dragon thing with the big circles?
Yeah.
There's a, like, nega version of him down in the depths. I saw him off to the depths.
Oh, you know what? I think I saw that thing too.
And I was like, what?
It was floating around. I was like, what the heck is going on?
So there's something cool happening there with, like, the old bosses might be returning down, like, under the depths. The depths are the coolest thing in this whole game to me. Even though there are some redundancy spots in there, I feel like there's a lot of secrets in there. I still haven't finished the whole, Master Koga, the Yiga clan stuff, so there's some cool stuff there.
I found their hideout. I couldn't get in.
Well,
they have plenty of hideouts, man. If you found one, you're gonna find more. They're all over the place.
Yeah.
They're the reasons why you get the Zonite schematics.
Yeah.
That's the only way to get them.
So I guess my whole point being is, I don't know, you'll probably get to a point where you won't care about all the shiny things you're seeing. I mean, maybe you will, but I don't know exactly when it happened to me, if it was like the 50-hour mark, the 60-hour, whenever, but there's a lot more to do in the game. Like, you could probably spend 200 hours trying to do everything, just trying to explore it naturally. I have no interest in it. And I think there's just a point where you get kind of oversaturated with it, and you're just like, all right, let me just hit the main things and move on from there. So there was a point where I just kind of beelined to the dungeons, I knocked them out, and now I'm kind of sitting in front of Ganon deciding if there's anything else I want to do. I'm not sure how much there is. I mean, I know I'm coming across kind of negative here. I still have really enjoyed my time.
I'm in the same boat. Like, it's
just so
like I said, it's really good, but I don't know. Like I said before, for me, there's just something. There's something missing, and I don't know. I'm not quite sure what I can pinpoint on it. I think, as we were saying, I think just the building and stuff. There's a little bit of burnout, possibly there, which it kind of sucks because, again, my favorite part is walking around and discovering. So I don't know.
I think it's not about the core game being fun, but I was wanting something a little new out of this, like beyond what Breath of the Wild had. Like I said, I was okay with Breath of the Wild being the core of this, as long as there was something new there. I'm now trying to dig into what's new here and deciding if I think it was
beneficial,
worth it to me. Like, the Ultra Hand, I'm not a big fan of. I mean, I think it's cool to play with. I think it's just, I wish it was more restrictive or didn't let you do what you can do with it. Some of the other powers are fine. Like Ascend,
I like Ascend is really cool.
The Rewind, whatever, Recall, that's cool. Like, because those are more focused kind of powers. So those are fine. I don't know if they're necessarily better or worse than the old powers you had in Breath of the Wild, but they're fine. But the one new mechanic they really pushed, that and like Fuse, I'm really kind of met on. Everything else in the main Hyrule overworld, super similar to Breath of the Wild, so that's not jumping out at me.
I was just gonna
the depth. Oh, go ahead.
No, I was just gonna throw in. You were just talking about Fuse being annoying. Being down in a cave when there's so many areas of the cave that's blocked off by rocks, just continuously fusing swords with rocks so you can get through is like, I'm so tired of that.
The game gives you a way out of that at a certain point.
Bombs,
but, yes.
But if you don't have bombs, then
there's a better way, a renewable way to do it without causing an issue. But you wouldn't know that unless you played to a certain point in the game. I'm not gonna tell you what it is. But I believe you. Like, trust me, for most of this game, I was getting tired of finding a rusty claymore and shoving a rock on its end. So it gets tedious. I guess my point being is a lot of the new stuff isn't doing it for me. The depths as a concept is the only thing I was like, man, that's really cool. The dungeons, are we ready to start treading in the dungeon territory?
Oh boy.
Well, I've only done 2. Do you want to talk about specific ones? Or?
Well, which ones have you done? You said Rito
and Gerudo.
How many have you done, Metal?
I only did Rito.
Just Rito? Okay.
Yeah.
So I don't want to spoil too many of them. You remember when we talked about Rito last time, and I said, well, my big fear was that all the other dungeons are gonna do the same thing, right? You have to go and do these 4 things or 5 things, and every dungeon is exactly.
It is like that. We are.
Yep. Wow.
Man, that's what I was afraid of.
Some do it better than others. Like the Rito one isn't the worst one.
The mirror one I didn't like. I didn't like the whole mirror.
I tell you, I ended up liking the mirror one a lot more after I did one of the other dungeons.
Really? Oh, okay.
I won't tell you exactly which one. Neither one of those, the Rito or Gerudo, in my opinion, are the worst of the dungeons. Neither of them are the best. The reason I think I kind of liked the Gerudo one a little bit, it wasn't so much getting there. I thought the route to the Gerudo one was a little more boring. It had a bit better progression to it. Like the Rito one just felt like too just open. It's just like, go do that thing over there, then do that thing over there, this thing over here, with nothing kind of building upon it. The Gerudo one kind of builds upon it, like the light puzzles. You kind of have to solve one puzzle, which leads you to solve the next one, which helps. Like I like that chain to feel like I'm kind of solving a grander puzzle. And the Gerudo Temple does that a little bit. Not much, but a little bit. So I like that. Now, if you don't like the light puzzle aspect of it just in general, then that's fair. But the other temples, they're the same. You will get there, and there will be 5 things you got to do. 4 or 5 things. And one of them does it, I think, very poorly. Another one does it pretty good. Like, I think the next 2, the Fire Temple, the Goron stuff, and then the Zora, one of those is the worst and one of those is the best, and I'll let you figure out which one's which when you get there. There is actually... Oh, go ahead.
I was going to say, that's very disappointing to hear, because, I mean, that's the main stuff you got other than the tiers, which those are really easy. You just find them and you jump in.
There's more you can do. There is a 5th temple. I don't think it's really spoiler to tell you there's a 5th temple. I won't tell you how you get there. That was a pretty cool experience. It's still kind of neutered by that.
I just mean if those 5 temples are your main thing, and then there's Ganon, it's like...
It's okay, so there is a little more in there. Like, that's not it. There are other things that kind of happen in between, and after you beat the temples and before you go to Ganon, there is something else that happens too, so it's not like that's it, but... Okay, yeah, those are big elements. The dungeons have always.
And if Ganon ends up being
pillars.
ho-hum like he was in the first game,
and I don't know that yet. I've been I'm at the battle pretty much. I can do it whenever I want. I just haven't.
I'll be afraid, man. Like that battle with Ganon, man, was really lame in Breath of the Wild for me, and that's what killed it. I'm so sad that I even beat the game.
Yeah,
like I hope this one's not like that.
I'm hopeful that the battle's going to be better. I feel like if it would have been as bad as the last one, we would have heard about that from other people by now, and I haven't heard that.
But
yet.
At least with Breath of the Wild, at least that whole experience leading up to there, for me, felt like a totally like new experience. Because open world Breath of the Wild or a Zelda game for me was like a brand new thing, and I was like,
I think. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
No, I'm just gonna say like. That type of experience is totally, for me at least already, is kind of what is going to hinder my liking for this one, because if it's another ho-hum Ganon battle, then it's a lot of the same type of things experienced in Breath of the Wild leading into a similar outcome if that ends up being that way, which at least with Breath of the Wild, that was like a fresh experience. At least for me.
I don't want to go down the route of this being a ho-hum Ganon battle yet. I don't think it's going to be. Like, there's been enough that's happened up till this point that I feel like the ending is...
I'm not saying it is. I haven't played it. I'm just mean if it is, like, at least Breath of the Wild could lean back on, for me at least, it was like a kind of a different experience. I don't know.
I guess. I take a more negative stance there because I really hated the Divine Beast. Like, I think the dungeons in this game, even though they're still not the dungeons I wanted... almost all of them are better than the Divine Beasts. So, I mean, I will say that. Even the worst of these dungeons, I think is probably better.
I guess that's fair, because my favorite part of that game was not the Divine Beasts. It was just the open world aspect. Again, that was my favorite part of that game.
And we've talked about before, though. I know for me, like, one of my defining favorite aspects of a Zelda game is the dungeons. Like, to me, that's kind of like the personality of the Zelda game, or like, I don't know, it's like the heart core. Something about it is like super defining for a Zelda game to me. So with the Divine Beast being so lackluster in the last game, there was just a big core thing just missing from that game. This game helps a lot by adding at least a better effort towards a more legitimized Zelda dungeon. They're not perfect. They're still missing progression elements that I miss. None of them, and I'm probably spoiling this a little bit, but I'm going to say it anyway, none have like mini bosses. None of them have really complex combat encounters. None of them have almost any combat. Super light, and really there's like one or two enemies you go bonk them on the head.
The Gerudo boss was a little worse, was a little tougher than the Rito one, but even the Gerudo one wasn't
the bosses are different. I'm not even talking about the bosses, I'm talking like mini bosses. Most Zelda temples or dungeons, you would have like some puzzly stuff, some light combat.
Sand Scorpion or something.
Yeah, then you get to a mini boss where you're basically getting ready to unlock your item, right? And you have to beat him, get the item, and then you have progression to get to the main boss. I always liked those mini bosses. It was something to kind of, I don't know, push the progression along. There's just something missing the progression for these dungeons for me. They look much better, they're themed much better, and some of the puzzly aspects are better, but not all of them. I mean, these still aren't quote-unquote true Zelda dungeons. And I'm pretty sure I played them all now, so I think I can say that with a fair amount of confidence.
I mean, both of them kind of have some cool stuff leading up to the actual dungeon aspect.
Some
like the Rito with the whole the platforming and all the sky stuff was really cool. I actually like the Gerudo. There's a place in the Gerudo town. There's like an event that happens there where it's like, that was kind of fun for a little bit. It was kind of quick, but the whole idea of what's happening at the town, that was cool. I don't know.
Yeah, the build up and lead to these dungeons are better than Breath of the Wild, and probably better than some other Zelda games. Like how you actually get to the temple and get ready to do whatever's in that temple. Like the prep there and kind of the build up is nice. But the dungeons themselves are still lackluster. I mean, I will say they're better than Breath of the Wild, but they're nowhere near top level. Like, it's no Ancient Cistern from Skyward Sword. None of these are. And I guess I'm a little disappointed, or potentially disappointed here. So, this is... I'm trying to think if this is overly spoilery. I'm going to say it anyway because I don't care about you guys.
Nope.
But towards the end of the game, remember how in Breath of the Wild we complained that you could skip out of what was potentially the best dungeon, Hyrule Castle, just by going to the end? They kind of force you to go through Hyrule Castle a little bit at the end of this before you get to Ganon. Not much, and there's still parts of the castle that you wouldn't explore unless you want to go explore, but they kind of make you go through it, but it was also kind of lackluster, to be fair. So unless there's something about to happen where I see a whole new area that leads to a dungeon at the end, then I'm a little worried there's no big final dungeon. If I just go to this point, I just fight Ganon, I'm going to be a little disappointed, but maybe the Ganon battle itself will be better. I don't know.
No? Anything else?
I don't know what to say to that, to be honest. Like, I just didn't want this to be Breath of the Wild 2. That's kind of what it is.
That's kind of what it is.
It is. It is 100%. I knew this was gonna happen.
I'm really curious how people, like critics or even fans, are gonna feel about this game 5-6 years from now. Like right now, everybody's super hyped, and you're watching everybody be like, "This is the best game ever made." Blah 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 blah. I can make a giant rocket monster using Ultra Hand. It's the coolest thing ever. But I'm curious if over time, if people are going to feel that way. Like, I think streamers and whatnot are going to love it because there's a lot of content in these games, so they're going to enjoy it for that. And I think that's going to paint a different picture of what this game really is. I think for the people who play a Zelda game just to play a Zelda game, they're going to look back on this in 3, 4, 5 years and be like, I don't know. Nothing about it so far has really jumped out at me. The narrative I think is much better. If I was going to say anything, this narrative is far better, and I've enjoyed it for that.
And I will say something that I didn't think was possible that leading up to it, I thought was kind of a shoo-in. If my feelings about this game, for me at least, hold steady and stay the way they are, I actually think there's a chance that if there's another game that comes out that is really good, I could easily see myself not picking this for like Game of the Year or anything. Like if Final Fantasy 16, if I play that and that's like incredible, I just mean like I thought this game was going to be like you were saying, it wasn't just going to be Breath of the Wild 2, and I don't know why I thought that, considering
because they didn't tell you much about the games. Like we all knew this was going to be Breath of the Wild at some level. I think people who tried to, convince themselves otherwise were, I don't know, misguided at the very least, or being naive about it. Like, looking at the trailers, you knew this was Breath of the Wild.
Yeah.
But I think we all thought there was going to be something else. I think for me, it was holding out for real dungeons. And you kind of got it, but not really. I mean, the big thing I think that most people were surprised about that is a real innovation, quote unquote, is the depths. I'll tell you though, the more I explore the depths,
it's pretty plain.
Like, it's great to find it first. And when you think about the scale of it, is the entire size of Hyrule, it seems pretty, endless.
It looks the same.
But when it looks the same, so there's that. But when you figure out what's down there, you kind of realize, okay, it's just gonna be like more Yiga clan hideouts, more forges, more this. Like, once you've done like a sampling of the content down there, you realize, well, there's just more of that here. It's all dark and you gotta go find it. And there are plenty of secrets. Like, there are some cool things hidden down there, like collectibles and special kind of event thingies. I don't know if that's ultimately enough just to make this like the best, craziest thing that we could have hoped for inside of this game. It's neat, but I think people are overselling it a little bit right now. I don't know. Maybe I'm just getting a little jaded on it because I've spent 80 hours and I'm getting towards the end of my time with it.
Again, I didn't want to say I'm disliking the game. I just meant reiterating. I didn't think there would be wiggle room for another game to possibly, I don't know, be game of the year. And I actually think this is, if Spider-Man 2 or Final Fantasy 16 blow me out of the water, or Starfield. But I don't know. I'm enjoying it. I feel like I got to finish it to kind of see.
I kind of have a similar sentiment. Like, when I pick like a game of the year, I always think about the moment or moments I've had, and like I can think back and be like, that was this really cool thing. And I've had a few of those with Tears of the Kingdom, but a lot of the cool moments, I also had very similar ones in Breath of the Wild. So it's like they're not standing out eventually. Like, me finding the depths for the first time, the way I found it, that was really cool. I will remember that moment. That's going to be something I'm going to be comparing future games to for sure. There are also a couple other cool moments that I won't spoil these for you that do happen. I'm like, that was really neat. But there are certainly other games I think that could come out that could have just as cool of a moment for me. Like, I don't feel like I've been overly wowed with the gameplay or the exploration inside of this game. It's more of the same in a lot of ways.
This game's very much reminding me kind of how I felt about God of War Ragnarok, where, like, looking back, we chose it as our game of the year, or it was voted on as game of the year. But like, looking back on that, it's just like, was that really the game of the year?
I think that's different though. I mean,
was that a wholly different experience than the previous God of War game?
But I think I get what you're saying. I do. But the focus of that game and what that was trying to accomplish,
narratively, it was totally different.
It was narrative, and that's true for a lot of the Sony games. But for God of War in particular, it wasn't about it being different mechanics, different environments. Which, to be fair, it had a lot of different environments and some different mechanics. It was about the narrative, and I think it improved on that in a lot of ways. Like, I could look back at Ragnarok and say that improved on just about everything the original God of War did, while adding a new, interesting story to it. And once again, you still argue Game of the Year, candidacy out of that, but I think it's a very different take than how Tears of the Kingdom is a sequel to Breath of the Wild. Because I think a lot of stuff that Tears of the Kingdom does is just a direct recreation of Breath of the Wild. And one of the big core things about Breath of the Wild or Tears of the Kingdom is the exploration in Hyrule. And the fact that that mechanic is pretty much 100% the same in so many ways, that I think makes it fall a little flat for me. I don't know. So I get what you're saying though.
I just wanted to bring up the idea because I remember, it got voted on as Game of the Year, but it was like, I don't know how strongly I still feel about that one. I mean, this one very much could, this is going to be a very popular game. Who knows, at the end of the year, most people are probably going to have played this over. Like, this is much more widely played, I would think, than like Final Fantasy 16. Like, don't get me wrong, Final Fantasy 16 is going to have a lot of people that play it, but Zelda is just, that's tip of the tongue.
Appeals to a larger demographic. I mean, you're going to have kids, adults, everybody playing it. Final Fantasy, I think it's going to be, I don't want to say niche, because it's not niche, but
no.
It's not, I think, as broad as Zelda is, by any means.
Well, it has its audience.
Final Fantasy 16 is going to kill it, too. Like, that's going to be another huge one. I'm more excited for that one now, because I want to compare it to, like, something like this. We'll see. I got to get through this game first.
So, I don't know, any last comments about anything in the game, or are there any other cool moments that have happened in the game you want to mention?
Other than like the first...
We're just coming so negative at him. Trying to make some positive.
Other than the first time going down in the depths, and the depths, like you were saying, that's probably the most notable thing. I mean, the thing is that every other type of experience you have from this game is something similar that happens in the previous one. It's like, oh, the first time you jump off the plateau and land on the ground. It's like, you have that same experience in this one. You still are elevated and you get to leap off when you get introduced to the world. You know what I mean? It's like, I don't know, what about you, gamer?
I just like finding treasure chests and that have fun stuff in it. Like, I'm running around with Wind Waker garbs. Yep. It's so cool. I was like, yay, I look like Toon Link now. Yay.
I definitely think the most memorable stuff for me so far has been the dungeons. And I think that's because, as you were saying, they're noticeable positive over the previous games. What was it? The Legendary Beasts or whatever.
Yeah.
I'm liking finding the tiers, man. Like, I think finding... Like, I'm scrounging around to find these stupid freaking geoglyphs, and there's only two ways to find them. You either find them from the sky, or they're glowing from a distance on top of a mountain, and it's like, well, that's how I was able to find like at least a few of them. And
I beeline myself to them all. I pretty much just found every tower and just jumped around.
That's kind of what I'm doing. Like, I'm just
the game gives you a map to them, right?
Yeah, I know. I took a picture of them and I'm like, all right, cool. Let me figure out where this is at. And then they just give you a general location. They don't tell you exactly where it is. They just tell you where it might be. It's like, oh, okay, that's kind of neat. But what is interesting though is as I'm finding these things. The story, I just like the story. I like the story. I think the story just plays out really well in it. I think in general. I think that's the highlight for me is the storylines. Like, I really like finding those stupid tiers.
Yep. The only thing I can really think of that I really enjoyed, finding the 5th dungeon. There's a few ways you can get there, and the game does point in the direction, but I stumbled upon it way before the game was supposed to tell me to do it, so that was interesting, because every other dungeon, you have to go through one of the races, like, kind of stories to get there, and they unlock it, and you can't get to the dungeons early, right? You have to go through their little storylines. Not this 5th one. You can just fall into it whenever. Like, I didn't realize I was in a dungeon until I was almost done with the dungeon. So, I like those moments in this game when you don't realize what's happening, and just something cool kind of manifests. So the 5th dungeon, if you come across it the right way, can be like that. I'm actually curious, depending on how you guys come across it, if you're going to have a similar experience to me or not. But yeah, I'll just leave it at that. Finding and doing the 5th dungeon was kind of cool.
I ran into something very interesting, like on one of the maps, and I was like, oh, what's that? I opened it up, and then I'm like, what is that thing in the top right corner? I'm like, ooh, another labyrinth. So
I was just about to say, have you guys done any of the labyrinths or the board cubes up in the air?
No, I haven't done it yet. I want to do it. I saw it. I made a mental note of it, and I'm like, I'll be back.
Yeah.
Did you jump in the whirlpool?
Yeah. All right, I won't mention anything with the labyrinths. I'll leave that for our later conversation. Cause I also
have a feeling we're going to be talking more about this in other episodes.
Yeah, we need a part 3. I don't know if it will want to be next time or not. Like, I'd say next time we really talk about this, I'd like to know what your guys' opinions are on all 4 of the dungeons. So I don't know how long it'll take you guys to get to that point, but
maybe we'll just hold off until we're done with the game, or done with.
We could do that.
Sizable. I just thought about it. Or good.
Oh, go ahead. I was gonna say, just we got Diablo 4 coming, so that's gonna probably be the next one.
I just thought about it, but like, what were the real negatives coming away from Breath of the Wild? I mean, so for you guys, it was just the dungeons, and for me, it was
the shrines were just repetitive and obnoxious, just like they are right now.
For me,
repetitive and obnoxious.
For me, it was just the weapon degradation, which. I guess just a random thought. I feel like I have more negatives coming away from this game simply because of the weapon degradation is still there. I don't like putting up signs. I don't want to keep taking this Korok to meet its friend. There's little things, I guess.
I don't even do those. I don't even bother with the Korok and his friends. I just throw them away. It's like, help me.
I have like
I just attach a rocket and just launch them off.
I have
pretty much.
I have like a weird ADHD where I see something, I have to go do it, and I can't move on until it's done. So it's like,
this game has made a lot of things more tedious.
Mm-hmm.
Like the weapon degradation. Okay, that was annoying. Now they haven't gotten rid of weapon degradation. Like, oh, we fixed it, but you'll be able to fuse things to it. Except fusion is a process, man. Like, especially if you want to fuse very specific items and that are in your inventory, you got to go to your inventory, which
it almost doubles your weapon degradation,
and then it's still gonna break. So you haven't fixed it. And then, other mechanics, okay, so finding the Korok. So you figured out, okay, I gotta get this Korok over there. You've solved the puzzle, you know what you have to do with it, but now you've got to build something to get that guy over here. Once again, after a certain point, you'll always solve it the same way. Like, I don't know, I don't want to retread this. We've been talking about it now for way too long, but
I'm good.
I agree. It has made some things worse. It's made a few things better, but I'm not sure if it's made it better enough.
Mm-hmm. All right, guys. Well, I think that's what we're gonna call it there. As I thought, we talked about Zelda way longer than I always expect we do. But coming from these guys, I feel like the next time we're gonna talk about it, we're gonna try and wait until we are about done. Right? Is that the kind of feeling?
I would say at least get done with the 4 main dungeons, because I want to rip into those whenever we get a chance. If you beat all the way through again, I would say don't hold off. Go as far as you can.
I'm gonna try and be done with this game by next time we talk. I would like to be.
I mean, don't rush it. If you're still enjoying, putzing around, go ahead. But as I said, there's a point where I think you get tired of putzing around. You're just like, all right, let me knock these things out.
Mm-hmm.
I'll tell you, there is no benefit, I think, to waiting on doing the dungeons. At a certain point, you're going to get overpowered for them, and then they're going to be less fun. So I would say don't wait too long. If you feel like you've been going a while without doing a dungeon, stop, go do one, then putz around and come back.
Right, so, I don't know, guys. So what do we have?